tricks, no more lies, only truth.
Hey, I wanted to hear that. You cut that for me. I was going to look it down. I was paging like 10 hours to get that one little flip in there, you know? Shoot, well, that was an expensive thing. I had to take that in. But we got it again. Anyway, Linus Pauling individually won Nobel Prize winner. He only one of the few men I think ever do it, if not the only one. And he said cancer research is largely a flawed product. That's him saying it,
well,
right?
The interesting thing about Linus Pauling is back when they were doing the nuclear testing in Nevada, they were telling the people that radiation was actually good for you, so don't worry about a little leakage, because they said it actually has been proven to make fruit flies live longer. And Linus Pauling said, no, it's not good for people. Radiation is not good for people. And he went to court over that, and he had to fight to actually get them to stop the nuclear testing, which they ultimately did. He was a very great man.
No more lies, only truth.
I love that. This is igfarben. My wife wants to. My wife went into this very, very intently, and pay attention. This is important. It goes back way back.
I'll try to make it quick. It is a little bit of a lesson in politics and history, but you need to know how sinister the cancer industry is. And it goes back to 1926. igfarben, interesting Gemeinschaft, means dies cartel. And these two men, it was a Swiss banker and a German industrialist, and they had this brainstorm. How could they achieve world power? Literally, this is what they were going after. And they said, you know, if the chemical companies would cartelize, and dies cartel, you know, it's to, you know, snuff out the competition like any good cartel. Dies sounds pretty benign, but it actually includes munitions and chemical drugs, everything made from oil. So dye, munitions, and chemical drugs. So they formed this cartel, and pretty soon they had about 93 countries, you know, these chemical companies that had joined the cartel. And proof that America had joined the cartel by World War II is when the bombardiers went over to Germany, they were told not to bomb the igfarben building, just leave that standing. So they bombed all around it, and there it stood in the midst of the rubble.
That's the one?
That's the one. The igfarben cartel came to give huge amounts of money to the Nazi war chest. They saw that the whole idea of the Nazis was a great vehicle for them. They actually picked Hitler. They were looking for a strong man, someone to really get them to a socialized nation. Obviously, he was pushing for that. The people followed him. So they literally funded him. It was the igfarben cartel that funded the concentration camps. They provided all the chemical drugs that they used to experiment with on the concentration camp prisoners, and the poisonous gas that they used to gas them. That was all those chemical companies. Now, mind you, these are the same people making drugs, you know, that people buy, the pharmaceuticals. The director of finance was a close friend of Adolf Hitler. His job was to spy, and it had to do with business, commerce. Now, these facts that are pretty amazing, they are public record. If you want to research it, you can find it out for yourself. But at the Nuremberg trials, this actually all came out, that the igfarben cartel was running the concentration camps. The lower people, of course, you know, they were found guilty of war crimes and made to pay for that. The higher-ups, who were really the masterminds behind the whole plot, they were dismissed by the judge as overzealous businessmen.
Well, you can see here, this is where the concentration camp is in Auschwitz. My wife and I visited there when we were in Poland, living in Poland and working there. This is the city of Auschwitz, and this is the massive plant area of the igfarben.
Yeah, they were huge, and they still are. The cartel's not died, by the way. It's alive and well.
Flexner.
Yeah, Abraham Flexner worked for Carnegie and Rockefeller, and they were part of the cartel, and they had, you know, this vast wealth that they wanted to protect. And so they thought, well, I know what we can do. We'll set up tax-exempt foundations, and we can give a lot of money to the medical schools. And they went to the AMA, and they said, tell you what, we'll upgrade all the medical schools. And the AMA said, oh, that's a great idea. Thank you very much. And so they sent this guy Flexner that worked for them around the country so that he would basically put out of business by writing up bad reports, the homeopathic medical colleges at the time, the naturopathic medical colleges, and they gave huge amounts of money to those colleges that were willing to promote drugs. And to this day, professors' salaries are largely paid by that cartel. Doctors don't realize that. Medical school students really don't realize that they are being primed to sell drugs.
And the annual funds, taxpayer funds that goes to cancer research is $5 billion, and everybody runs around raising money for the richest organizations, this cartel, which owns oil companies and everything you can imagine. It's just huge. It's hard to believe, but that's the way it is, and you can check it out. Trish and I have done so much research on this and other things as we're trying to expose the FTC.
So we did have to digress a little bit there because we want you to appreciate why we wouldn't sign that order. We're not going to tell people that you really need to go to the National Cancer Institute.
And earlier we had this quote, and this is a quote, we wanted to repeat it because it's important, because this is from Dr. Lay, the former commissioner of the FDA, who, by the way, because of his views, was only in that position for a year or so. I did a year or two, was it? Now, the FDA, look, the people that came to visit us, they were very nice. Matter of fact, they came in and they just they're doing their job, you know, and they took the products and all that good stuff, but it's not necessarily everybody working in the FDA, they're just doing their job. Well, this lady's one of them, and Dr. Graham's another one.
Right, and this woman last year, she actually left the FDA because she realized that they weren't about protecting people. But she tried warning them. Avandia is that diabetes drug that was killing people. They cared about the top 4 products people have used for cancer. They cared about the cancer testimonies on our website. So we wanted to present our side of this. Well, towards the end of, now the presentation, Esther and I were working on it, it wasn't done yet, and that's when we got slammed by the FDA. So we added this little portion on after to give you an example of, I mean, the FDA is saying our stuff is food and we can't tell people how to use it. This little boy at 2, he toddled out of his daycare, fell into the pool and drowned. They believe he was underwater for 50 minutes. When the parents got there, he was cold and blue, totally blue. He was dead, he was pronounced dead. They weren't even going to airlift him to the hospital, and the father begged, and they ended up airlifting him anyway. They packed him into ice. They were going to donate his organs. The parents said, well, actually, the doctor at that point saw some signs of life. They took him out of ice. He was on life support. He was in a coma for 3 months. The doctor said, look, the humane thing at this point is pull the life support. So they put him in a little tux. They had a little service for him. They were singing and praying. They pulled the life support, and then they saw a heartbeat line. The little boy pulled through. Now at that point, a woman had called our radio show. They didn't even know them, a stranger, and she said, is there anything you can do for drowning? And we said, well, what do you mean? And so we ended up...
Well, you know, we looked at each other first. I mean, that was live radio.
We suggested some things like First Kings instead of the Pediasure and some other products. And the dad just wanted everything for his little boy. So, you know, the more we suggested, the more they started to put in that little feeding bag. Now, this is a year ago, and this little boy is doing even so much better. When the parents left the hospital with the boy, I just have to share this part. They were shown a CAT scan of his brain, and it was shriveled up, and there was a crevice, and they said, look, all your son will ever be able to do is hear and feel pain. He was pretty much a vegetable. They brought him home again. Those are all the Daniel Chapter 1 products he's been on, and that's all he's been on for over a year now. That little boy is learning to walk and talk again, and a recent MRI showed a perfectly normal brain. And the father said he was so upset when the government was hassling us. He said, I will go to the Supreme Court. I will be there. He said, every parent has the right to have the choices that we did, the option to hear and then to use the very products and to be told how to use them. But yeah, that's little Cole. He's bright as a button and happy as could be.
Well, the dad actually calls to us regularly. The child is doing great. We're just really optimistic that he's going to do absolutely fine, and it's just a real awesome story that we have there, you know.